are back, and we just finished watching 2015's The Big Short, rated R, with a runtime of 2 hours and 10 minutes. We caught this on the Hoopla app, and we said we were going to try and do more library stuff, right?
Yeah.
You could also watch this on MGM Plus and Paramount Plus, and also to buy rent on Prime Video. This comes to us from director Adam McKay, with screenwriting credits to Adam McKay and Charles Randolph, from the book The Big Short by Michael Lewis. This stars Christian Bale as Michael Burry, Steve Carell as Mark Baum, and is narrated, I guess those are like the three big characters, or the three main characters, by Jared Bennett, played by Ryan Gosling. This is hella entertaining, but hella depressing if you're really paying attention. This is a brief overview of the events that happened prior to the big crash that started sort of in 2007 and culminated in 2008 with the implosion of certain financial houses. In particular, how the too big to fail Lehman Brothers eventually went away, disrupting economies globally and also contributing to massive unemployment and just chaos everywhere. And it took us a long time to recover from that. And yet nobody was held accountable except for that one guy from, what was it, Société Générale, maybe? I forgot what bank he was at. But anyway, This is a masterclass. I mean, it's got some huge A-list celebrities, and everyone does an amazing job here. Even like the people that you don't see on the screen for very long. There's a really great sequence between Mark and his wife, played by the lovely Marissa Tomei, where he talks about finally the impact of the death of his brother and what it's done to him. You can see that he's a changed person and wants to operate in a different way, but being surrounded by these basically financial vultures, it's tough.
Since childhood, apparently, he's been a person who has always been interested in finding flaws and addressing them.
With the rabbi.
Yeah, exactly. He's just constantly reading the Torah, just looking for mistakes, basically, which the rabbi was not fond of. And he carried that on throughout his life. And this is...
It was
basically
something
this is something
couldn't wrap his head around.
Yeah,
the more and more he delved into it and came to realize what was happening.
I think somebody else sort of hit it. I think it was Ryan Gosling's character when they were in that whole meeting, and they brought him into this meeting to say, what is going on? The people are defaulting on the things and nothing's changing. Why is this happening? Why isn't this endeavor that we're working on, why isn't it paying out right now? Mm-hmm. And basically Ryan Gosling was just like, fraud, you know? Yeah. and Ryan Gosling says, you guys, you're all talking about how the system's broken, but you secretly
are optimists.
You're secretly optimists. You secretly think that there is some sort of goodness or fairness that's occurring behind the scenes, that this is just an aberration. Yeah. When it's not an aberration, that's the freaking system.
Yeah. It's that, the Maya Angelou quote, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he does. The Ryan Gosling, the Jared, who is basically our narrator. He starts the film off, and he's just like a shark. Yeah. Very charismatic, but very rooted in this industry. You could tell, like, he's definitely... That's the other thing. All these characters are based on real people. Mm-hmm. So you get a glimpse into this real life world. And it is funny, but it's also horrifying if you really think about it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, millions of people lost their employment.
Lost their homes...
$5 trillion disappeared. Trillion.
Lost their savings accounts, their 401ks, their pensions.
Gone.
Just gone.
Smoke.
Starting from scratch.
Right.
And
for the most part, the banks were bailed out.
Not the most part. That's what saved everything. If the government did nothing, they would have all just completely collapsed, which would have set off a chain reaction, which would have basically destroyed the entire world economy because everybody, like it or not, businesses need banks to give them the money to get the goods and services they need to run their businesses.
And I think a lot depended on the U.S. dollar.
I don't. They never mentioned anything about the value of the dollar. It was just basically that the banks were pretty much defaulting because now instead of one, the bonds just became worthless.
Right.
And two, now you have these other people who found the loophole and they're owed like billions.
Yeah. That one guy was like, that email that Christian Bale's character sends, like,
he's like, here's the $489 million return on your investment.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because everybody wanted to kill him.
Yeah, yeah.
His only mistake was he figured it out too early.
Yeah, yeah. But even with all of that, because you see the other two characters, Charlie and Jamie, that they ran that small hedge fund out of the garage. Like, they figured it out too in real time, right? And they too were like, what is going on? How can this thing be tanking, but the credit rating is still high?
Yeah.
In essence, screwing me because now I still have to pay the premiums, right? Because I've committed this money and the banks aren't budging. But at some point, something's going to break and explode, right? And that's ultimately what happens.
It's crazy. The film handles everything really well. Like, these are financial things that confused everybody at the time. But the movie does an excellent job of explaining it in a sort of tongue-in-cheek, entertaining kind of way, where they're just like, oh, here's Margot Robbie in a hot tub drinking champagne, and she will explain what a credit swap is.
Right.
Here's Anthony Bourdain talking about CDOs and
here's Selena Gomez
and some mathematician dude.
Yeah.
So they do explain it. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking.
Lots.
But at the heart of it, it's still a really riveting story.
Yeah.
And just the way that because these guys, none of them see the evidence, they see the numbers, and it makes 100% sense. But it's also baffling that something like this could be occurring, especially in a system that this is what everything is built on. There is so much riding on the financial system, the economy, everything is riding upon this. And they're all banking on a reputation of the housing market, which they have been pretty much corroding and deteriorating for decades. And now it's finally coming due. And usually when it's like, something will come along and save the day, or maybe it's not going to be as bad. And they're going out. They went to Florida where they
met those two real estate guys.
The two real estate guys, they're just like, oh, I love immigrants. I love whatever, because I could we don't even do credit checks. It's just because I know that once I send out the loan, the bank buys the loan immediately. They don't even care. They don't even look at it, because once they could put it into this fund, they could send it off to Moody's or S&P, and
they're going to get a
AAA credit rating on just like a bag of shit.
Yeah, and then they bundle that and they sell it.
And that's what happened. And originally these things worked because it was like you would bundle all these mortgages together, but they would be good mortgages. These would be like people who were invested in their home and they had good credit ratings and whatnot. And now they're like, well, these things are great. Yeah. How come we can't have more of them? Well, not that many. There's only a limited number of people buying homes. Okay, well, let's just sell a home to anybody, regardless of whether they can afford it or not.
Yeah. Let's sell them $1 million mansion on their $7 an hour.
Or like
McDonald's
with that stripper,
salary.
She's like, I have 5 houses and a condo.
Yeah. And he's just like flabbergasted.
And multiple loans upon each of them. So, yeah, it's funny seeing how Steve Carell especially, he is just baffled and horrified, and he's just becoming angrier and angrier and angrier as the film goes on.
I'm assuming he eventually leaves the company because it's
at the end it said it was just the other guys.
Yeah.
That he was, I guess, done with it all.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, even without having made a colossal payday, because they all made huge amounts of money.
Right. And he really struggled with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Really,
yeah.
really struck. I know that you don't like when I ask you this question, but who was your most compelling character in this film? Who did you? I really liked Bale's performance. He's always such a great actor, but Steve Carell really was sensational.
Steve Carell was kind of the MVP of this. Bale's character was very interesting, but he was isolated.
Yeah.
And he didn't interact with any of the other characters.
And he never left that office. He did, but very rarely.
Yeah. In fact, I don't even know if any of the other characters knew that he even existed or that he was sort of like the impetus for all of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just he did it, and then somebody overheard, oh, well, some guy's betting against the housing market.
Right.
They invented this thing called a credit swap for him.
Yeah. Well, I think Michael originally offset all of this, and then that's when I think Ryan Gosling's character got wind of it, and then by chance, through a wrong phone call, it came to Carell's company, and then they were interested because it was like, who would bet against housing?
Yeah,
because nobody thought that would be any kind of
and
gamble to
that's
take.
the sort of thing that Carell's character was interested in, like weird mistakes like that.
Right.
So,
but the more he delved, the more he understood what was going on.
He realized that it's not just a mistake; it's absolute fraud and corruption. And
on purpose,
just to make money and this like dream that it's never gonna end if we just bundle it up again and put it into a synthetic, and then a synthetic from there, and it's just this giant tower of shit. Crazy.
I mean, when you listen to it, it's like, so basically these people are just gambling. They're just gambling with people's money.
That's true of the stock market in general, but it was more than that. It was blatant. Almost like legalized cheating of the system. Like we know this doesn't work. We know that this is going to fail, but it's not going to fail for me right now.
Yeah.
I'm making the money right now. Mm-hmm. Who cares what's going to happen in 10 years? And I'm sure somebody will figure something out. Seriously, this was all just like pushing the crap down the road and thinking, oh, this is great. Like that scumbag that Carell talked to at the sushi
CEO
restaurant.
Guy?
Yeah. And at the end of it, he's just, tell me how much you're worth and I'll tell you how much I'm worth.
Yeah. He was a bag of shit.
He was a piece of shit. I would have loved to see his comeuppance.
Yeah.
But
what did you think of the Ben character played by Brad Pitt?
Interesting character.
It was interesting because he got out of the game.
Yeah, he got out of the game, and he just and the funny thing is he knew what was happening. He knew what the end result of all of this would be.
Was going to be, yeah.
But these guys came to him, and he's just like, so you could be rich, but don't you start fucking dancing about it, because this is more than that. Okay, right. Yeah, you're wealthy, but your wealth is coming at the cost of
people committing suicide.
Yeah,
because
people will die because of this.
Yeah,
and that's where you're accurate when you say, it's hell of entertaining, but it's also pretty sad. This ruined a lot of people.
Yeah.
It took us like a decade to get over it,
or to come back from it. Sure,
to come back from it.
Sure.
Yeah, and.
Yeah,
and then at the end, you see that they're scheming again. They just, hey, we got something. It's called a
bespoke tranche opportunity.
BTO, which is basically the same thing.
Nothing but acronyms.
Because I don't think they ever did any sort of real accountability or regulation. I mean, everybody got away with it except for that one dude.
Yeah,
and that is just sickening.
It is.
That these people knew. I mean, especially the ratings agencies. They're supposed to be the ones.
That scene was also. I mean, I think that was where the tide turned for Carell's character, for the Mark Baum character, right? I think when he goes to kind of try to understand what the hell is going on, how is it that the market, that there's so much foreclosures, and yet the ratings on these financial products is still super high.
It's like that saying, "Who watches the Watchmen?"
And then her answer was,
well, if we don't give them the ratings, they're going to go to the other clearinghouse and
down the block.
They're going to go to Moody's and
give them the business.
They're going to get the business. We need the business. I don't freaking need the business. This is you're talking billions of dollars. Yeah. Who cares if you don't get the business on this one and they get it?
Yeah.
And for ratings agencies, both of them should be doing the job so they keep each other in check.
Yeah. Well, then that's another thing when the Finn Whitrock, is that his name? His character talks to the Karen Gillan character, and he's like, aren't you supposed to be the entity that watches
The bankers.
the bankers? And she's like, no, I'm trying to get in on that, son.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of banks or businesses, people who work in the security, like not securities like money, but security of the law, keeping an eye on financial transactions and financial crimes, they eventually get hired by law firms in the private sector.
Yeah.
And they use that knowledge to
Enrich
protect their clients.
Yeah. I also liked the Ryan Gosling character. He's sort of our narrator through this escapade.
Yeah.
And at the end, with his $47 million check, he's like, they rode my ass for 2 years, but guess who's laughing?
Yeah. And he got a nice bonus.
And probably got to keep his job.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he was just a shark. For him, it was just a money-making opportunity. It wasn't like a crusade with Carell's character or
even Bale's character,
which was just, I'm right. This is something that's broken, and we could make money off it, and I'm right. I think that's what it was really for him.
Yeah.
It was just proving that he was correct.
The other not funny, but the other interesting part was I always like to see the after, and it said that Michael Burry he offered to speak to the government to give them a heads up of how he figured this out, but no one ever called him. But he did get audited 4 times.
Yeah.
And visited by the FBI. Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, pettiness.
Who do you think is the biggest villain here? Is it the banks or is it the government?
It's mainly the banks. The government is also bears a huge responsibility in that they weren't
really
doing what they're
jobs.
Supposed to be doing.
Regulating.
I mean, that's exactly what it does. But the government is supposed to regulate this shit. When something goes bad, it's like, well, that's not good. We can't let that happen again.
Right. So we have to
here's the regulation that stops it. And now it's sort of like, okay, here's a regulation. It'll expire in like 4 years, and then 4 years pass, nobody remembers, and now we have some sort of new thing that's basically the exact same thing as the old thing,
or no regulation.
I think they do put like temporary regulations to make people happy for a little while. They put basically the government's real good at strapping on band-aids.
Yes
They love band-aids. Oh, that bullet wound looks nasty, put a band-aid on it. Oh, it's starting to smell, just get some air freshener. That's what they do.
Yeah.
When it comes to like, why don't we ask why it smells and figure that out? Maybe we could do something more permanent.
Right. No. Nobody wants to deep dive.
That's the next guy's problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also, I'm probably getting a kickback too.
I was gonna say. I mean, I feel like
honestly,
as bad as the banks were or are, I think, to me at least, the bigger villain is the government because.
Well, the banks are paying them not to do their jobs. To any sort of permanent regulation or overturn regulations that did exist that protected people.
Right.
Or allow them to just do things that they didn't used to be able to do. Like banks used to not be able to mess with stocks. And they got rid of that and everybody got super rich. And it was just like, well, now we have all this money. Let's lobby our Congress people.
Which is a nice way of saying bribe.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's not bullshit.
Let's not bullshit
It's
here.
sort of like, they're not going to have a quick lunch at McDonald's.
No.
It's, let's have a meeting on this tropical island paradise with women who are definitely not hookers.
And this powdery white substance on the table. I don't know.
That's
what that
just
is.
Sand. The white sand beaches. A little sand got on the table in perfect lines.
Yes. This rolled up $100 bill.
Yeah.
No idea where that came from.
You could keep that, by the way.
I'm laughing, but I'm dying on the inside.
Seriously, people just have too much money.
Certain people, not everybody.
Certain people have too much. Well, you know what? It's getting to the point nowadays where even people who don't have enough money think they have too much money, and that's gonna eventually bite us all in the ass too.
I'm sure. Well, it's interesting. They also made a point of referencing how I think Greece and Iceland got
destroyed,
super fucked over this. Yeah.
Yeah, countries went bankrupt.
Yeah. But there was
Entire
accountability
countries.
in those countries.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there wasn't any money to bribe anybody, so
Yeah.
yeah. Once the money for bribes runs out, it's like, all right.
Off you go to the paddy wagon.
Yep. Somebody's got to, if you ain't going to pay with green, you're going to pay with red when I beat the crap out of you in prison.
Did you have a favorite character? Did I ask you that?
I said that I felt that
Carell.
Carell's character was like the MVP of the movie. Bale's character was very interesting, but he's very isolated. Like I said, I don't think any of the other characters even knew he existed, or at least not in the scope of this movie.
Mm-hmm. They don't really interact either. Like even Jamie and Charlie don't really interact with Mark and his crew. When
Right.
It's
It's almost like three separate stories.
Yeah.
But at least Jamie and
Charlie.
They had each other, and they had Rob, what the hell?
Ben, the Brad Pitt character. I was like, Rick? I thought you meant Jared, because didn't they also sort of superficially know Jared? No, it was just Mark that knew Jared. Steve Carell knew Ryan Gosling.
They meet because he's looking around for banks to invest in this loophole that he's almost taking credit for, even though he just heard about it. So yeah, Ryan Gosling's character was just the most entertaining because he is like a caricature.
Yeah. Yes, of these guys. Yeah,
He
for
is a
sure. And
caricature.
he had some pretty funny lines.
He had some great lines. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. It's
Really sharp writing on
sharp
this.
writing, funny lines,
Great delivery.
Everything's very entertaining, and it's just it weaves it all together where it doesn't sort of like take the piss out of it, because this is a serious story. I mean, a lot of people got hurt, and while McKay did make it entertaining and funny at times, you're still dealing with the fact that this was a really terrible moment in
History.
Yeah, global history.
Yeah, because this impacted everyone.
This impacted
not just
everybody.
us.
And it's sort of like, I guess some people could watch this rooting for these guys to see if they can make their money. But even them, they do realize that, okay, we have made a killing off of this, but there is like pretty bad collateral damage.
Yeah.
I think the only one that is just like, whatever is Jared.
Yeah. Because I think he knows at the end of the day, he's going to get his pay.
He's going to get his pay, and probably he just knows that, you know what, they'll just slap some more Band-Aids on this, and we'll go again in about 10, 15 years.
Yeah. This won the Best Writing Adapted Screenplay at the 2016 Oscar race for Charles Randolph and Adam McKay, and rightly so. Again, the story, the way it's told, is super entertaining, and parts of it offer explanations or further explanations of what these financial instruments are, kind of a breakdown of what's going on, and just really well done. They use every trick in the book. There's flashbacks, there's breaking fourth walls, there's the little kind of intercuts of the explanations with these like other celebrities. And it's just handled super. The soundtrack is fantastic. It's just done really, really well. Smart. I mean, the book was super entertaining and also horrifying at the same time.
Did you read that?
I did read it. I meant to give it to you, but I had loaned it to somebody and I never got it back. So maybe we can take it out from Hoopla.
Yeah. Thank you, North Bergen Public Library.
Yes, thank you, Public Library.
So if you don't have the Hoopla app and you don't have a library card, go get one.
Go get one. You can watch fantastic movies like The Big Short and
Stuff
others.
that's not streaming elsewhere, like The Big Short.
Yes. We caught Past Lives on cable, but it is also on the Hoopla app. I have it in my...
a bunch of other stuff, too.
Yeah. Support your local libraries, because if you don't, they're going to go away, and that would be such a shame, because knowledge is power. I think they also mentioned something like this in the film where these financial guys, they don't want you to know. So they're going to talk in their little acronyms and stuff.
And the funny thing is a lot of times they don't even know.
No, right.
because they had no idea what was inside
really
of
was
these
happening.
things.
Yeah.
It was funny in the beginning. Christian Bale, he's like noticing this, and then he just goes to like I guess his intern or whatever, and he's like, "I want you to get me the files of the stuff of the mortgages that are in the
in the credit debt obligations in the CDOs."
Yeah. Give me a like a binder that has every single mortgage inside of these things. And he gets this big thick thing, and he just sits there and he looks through all the mortgages, and it has how much the mortgage is for, what's the interest, what was the FICO score of the person getting it, what's the person's income, and he's going through it all, and nobody else did that.
Right.
Nobody else looked through these things and was like, "This is shit."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna by 2007."
And he was right.
All of the adjustable rate mortgages are going to switch. And all of these people are going to default on everything.
Right. And we are in a world of hurt.
Yeah. And it was funny that, with like the two real estate guys or the mortgage guys, they're like, "Oh, we get way more money for the adjustable rate mortgages." It's like we get $2,000 for a fixed. We get like 10 for an adjustable rate mortgage. So we're just like selling these things to anybody.
Yeah, with a pulse.
And they're like, "Oh, well, don't you check their credit rating and stuff?" Yeah. And the guy almost laughed.
Yeah.
He's like, "We know the bank's going to buy it as soon as we
Yeah, he said if I do it on Friday, it's sold.
He's like, I don't even fill out the box for income.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah, it was the Wild West for a long time. Yeah. I mean, I think that things are different now, but maybe not so. I mean, I think they're different.
It'll be different until some future genius is like, "Wait a minute, what if we did this?"
Yeah,
because nobody remembers history anymore.
No.
So they'll just repeat it. They'll give it a new name.
Yeah.
And it's not like as though it'll be regulated or whatever regulations are there. They're either expired or they're going to expire because God forbid anything is permanent.
Yeah. It is a crazy watch.
Mm-hmm.
Scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this film?
I'd give it an 8.
I am going to get an 8.5. Your favorite movie, once again.
Oh, God. drop that already.
I think from where it starts to where it ends, it is a wild, wild ride. If you want to learn a little bit more about the financial crisis, if you want to know a little bit more about banks and the things that they do, I think this is a great watch. I think if you
just want to be entertained.
If you just want to be entertained, absolutely. If you are a film student, you should absolutely be watching this. And if you like these actors, there's a crap ton of actors, and they're all good in it. Mm-hmm. Even, like I said, even the ones that have like little to no screen time are great. And I think that, Adam McKay does fun movies.
Yeah.
Not always. I didn't really like that Don't Look Up thing, but this was hella entertaining.
Mm-hmm. And he did Step Brothers, too.
I was going to say this or Step Brothers. It'll always be Step Brothers. It'll always be Step Brothers. But this was hella entertaining.
Yeah.
But also terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are doomed to repeat our mistakes, aren't we? Probably.
Especially when we don't know what the hell the mistake was in the first place.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have no idea what that was about. It was just the banks were being bad.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean there's some sort of thing that'll give me 12% interest? Well, all right, I'll hop on.
Yeah. Yeah, are you really going to give me this mortgage even though I make $7.25 at McDonald's for this $1 million house? Yeah. That was also, I mean, there's so much good stuff in this. The scene where they're with the realtor in Florida when they're passing all those houses and most of them have foreclosure, or not even foreclosures, but they have like for sale signs.
And she's just like, "Oh, we're just in a little gully right now."
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, both of them lost their jobs."
Yeah.
In this massive house. And you could see like the desperation, like, "Oh, come in, come look." And she's like, It's crazy. And then kind of vindication, those two jackasses.
Yeah, they're online
at job fairs.
Job fairs in front of the stand for KFC.
Yeah. F those guys. But there should have been more accountability, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
This episode of the podcast is going to go out to JWR. Happy birthday, or happy belated by the time this gets posted. I think we're a day or two late. But, James, I hope you had a splendid birthday, as splendid as you, my friend. And again, if you haven't checked it out, it is on streaming. It is streaming on Paramount Plus and MGM Plus, which I think is also an offshoot of that. I don't know why they don't just combine it. But anyway, we caught it on Hoopla, which is part of the public library system. If you don't have a library card, what the hell are you waiting for? There is so much world to see and experience at your local library.
Yeah,
they also...
And you don't have to go there. You can just hook up on the Hoopla app.
Yeah, absolutely. We just...
Books,
movies,
ebooks,
television shows, music. They got it all. I mean, I think a lot of the Christmas music I played this last year came from Hoopla. Absolutely.
Hoopla is not endorsing us.
Hoopla is not endorsing us, but
it's just an awesome service.
It is an awesome service. And again, it's tied to the public library. Please, please, please support your local libraries. They are such a vital and important institution. If you are knowledgeable, if you know what's going on, you can make better decisions. Knowledge is power, folks. Knowledge is power. If we've learned nothing from this film, it's that knowledge is power.
And from G.I. Joe.
And from G.I. Joe, absolutely.
Knowing is half the battle.
Winning.
G.I. Joe.
Real American. But again, I just want to give a shout out to the libraries. When you and I were young people, there was no Google.
No.
We had to go to the library and get our Encyclopedia Britannica on.
Yep. Here we are shaking our fists at clouds right now.
Yeah, exactly. These young kids, these youngins, they're soft.
All right.
All right. That's it.
Speaking of being old, it's time for these old bones to head to bed.
And that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
good night.
Good night. Support your local library. Good night.